I never thought I'd be here, sitting in this chair, looking out this window, wondering where the time went. If you had asked me years ago if I would end up in a nursing home, I would have laughed. I always believed I would live out my days in my own home, surrounded by the things I loved. But life has a way of changing things. When I first moved in, I thought I was making the right choice. I thought I'd be safe, cared for, and surrounded by friends. But now, I see the truth. And if you or someone you love is considering this decision, I want to share the hard lessons I've learned. Here are 10 regrets I never expected but now live with every day. Regret 1. Losing independence. At home, I used to wake up when I wanted, eat what I craved, and go outside whenever I felt like it. Now, everything is scheduled. Breakfast at 7 a.m., lunch at noon, dinner at 5 p.m., lights out at 9 p.m. It doesn't matter if I'm not hungry or if I feel like staying up late. Rules are rules. One morning, I asked for eggs instead of cereal. The nurse gave me a sympathetic smile and said, "Sorry, today's cereal day." That's when it hit me. I don't even control what's on my plate anymore. The little freedoms you take for granted, they disappear. You can't choose when to take a walk, when to have visitors, or even when to take a nap. And slowly, you start feeling like a child in an adult's body, constantly waiting for permission. The realization that my choices had been stripped away hit me harder than I could have ever imagined. It wasn't just about meals or sleep schedules. It was about the loss of self-determination. Every part of my daily routine was dictated by someone else. I thought I'd be safe and well cared for, but I never imagined I would feel like a prisoner in a place that was supposed to be my home. It's an invisible chain, a slow erosion of identity. At first, you comply because you think it's temporary, but then you wake up one day and realize you've forgotten what it feels like to make decisions for yourself. The worst part, no one warns you about this before you arrive. Regret 2. Feeling forgotten. In the first few weeks, the visits came often. My children and grandchildren would come by, bringing treats, sharing stories. But as the months passed, the visits became less frequent. Life outside these walls kept moving, but I stayed frozen in time. I see it in the eyes of my neighbors too. Every evening, some sit by the door, watching, waiting, hoping that today will be the day their son or daughter shows up. But the truth is, people get busy. They don't mean to forget, but they do. The hardest part, realizing that life goes on without you while you sit here, remembering what it felt like to be needed. The silence becomes deafening. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and before you know it, your existence feels like an afterthought. The calls that used to come daily dwindle to once a week, then once a month, and eventually, just on birthdays and holidays. At first, I made excuses for them. They must be busy. They'll come next week. But then, reality set in. My absence didn't create a gap in their lives, the way their absence created one in mine. I began to feel like a relic of the past, someone they loved, but no longer prioritized. One of the hardest moments for me was seeing the disappointment on the faces of my friends here when visiting hours ended, and no one had come for them. I saw my own reflection in their sadness. I had always assumed that love meant being remembered, but here, I learned that love and memory don't always go hand in hand. The world moves forward, and I remain still, trapped in the waiting. Regret 3. Losing sense of purpose. Back home, I had a reason to wake up. I had chores, hobbies, things that made me feel useful. But here, there's none of that. No garden to tend to, no meals to cook, no bills to pay. I met a man named Frank when I first arrived. He was a carpenter, used to build furniture with his hands. Now, his hands sit idle in his lap, shaking slightly from age. "I don't know what to do anymore," he told me one day. I used to make things. Now, I just exist. It's a slow, aching emptiness. Without purpose, the days blur together and the spark inside you dims. I wake up and wonder, what am I supposed to do today? There are activities, but they feel forced, more like a distraction than something truly meaningful. Playing bingo or watching TV with a group of people doesn't compare to the sense of accomplishment I once had. At home, I had responsibilities. I was needed. Even the smallest things, like making a grocery list or feeding the cat, gave me a sense of control over my life. Here, everything is done for me, and I thought that would be a relief. Instead, it makes me feel useless. I've heard people say, "You deserve to relax now." But I don't want to relax all the time. I want to contribute, to create, to be part of something bigger than just waiting for the next meal or the next scheduled activity. Purpose is what keeps us going. And when you lose that, you start to feel like you're just passing time until time runs out. Regret 4. Declining health faster than expected. I always thought nursing homes were designed to keep people healthy. But I've seen the opposite happen. When you stop moving as much, your body weakens. I've seen friends go from walking with a cane to needing a wheelchair in just months. I remember when Mrs. Patel moved in. She was full of energy, always chatting, always on her feet. Now, she barely leaves her chair. The routine here is quiet, sedentary. We sit more, move less, and the decline comes faster than anyone warns you about. There's something about losing control of your health that's terrifying. When I lived at home, I could walk up and down my street, go to the store, even do light exercise. Here, there's no need to walk anywhere. Everything is brought to you. At first, that felt convenient. But now, I see how damaging it is. The less I moved, the weaker I became. My muscles ache in ways they never used to. My energy feels drained, not from doing too much, but from doing too little. The truth is, when you stop using your body, it forgets how to work. And the moment you become dependent on others, the decline speeds up. I wish someone had told me that before I moved in. Regret 5. The struggle with staff turnover. When I first moved in, I found comfort in certain caregivers who knew my routines and preferences. But before I knew it, they were gone, replaced by new faces who didn't know or understand me. The high turnover of staff makes it hard to form real connections. I often feel like I'm just another task on their checklist, rather than a person with a lifetime of stories. Having to repeatedly explain my needs to new caregivers makes me feel like a stranger in what was supposed to be my home. What's even more difficult is that not all staff members share the same level of care and kindness. Some are wonderful, while others treat their job as just a duty. When a caregiver who truly understood me leaves, it feels like losing a friend. The inconsistency makes it difficult to feel truly settled, and I miss the feeling of being known and understood without having to start over again and again. Regret 6. The unexpected financial strain. I thought I had planned well for retirement, but nursing home costs are overwhelming. The bills keep coming, and it's shocking how quickly savings disappear. I never imagined that after a lifetime of hard work, I'd be worried about money in my final years. The cost of care often means sacrificing little pleasures, special meals, personal care items, or even outings. Financial stress takes away the peace of mind I had hoped for in my later years. It's heartbreaking to realize that my family is also burdened by these expenses. They try their best to support me, but I see the strain it puts on them. Sometimes, I wonder if I would have been better off staying home with in-home care, where at least I could have managed my finances better. I thought a nursing home would provide security, but instead, it has left me with an ongoing worry I never expected. Regret 7. The harsh reality of being out of sight, out of mind. I used to be at the center of family gatherings, My home was a place of warmth and memories, but since moving into the nursing home, I feel like I've faded into the background. Family visits become less frequent, phone calls grow shorter, and life moves on without me. It's heartbreaking to realize that while I still think about my loved ones every day, they are too busy to think about me as often. The sense of being forgotten is one of the hardest realities I've had to face. At first, visits were regular, every weekend, sometimes more. But slowly, life got in the way. "We'll come next week," they'd say, but next week turns into next month. The younger generation gets busy with their own lives, and I understand that. But understanding doesn't make the loneliness any easier. I feel like I exist in a place that time forgot, where the world keeps moving forward, and I'm left behind, waiting for a visit that may or may not come. These are the truths I wish I had known before moving into a nursing home. If you're considering this choice, take the time to think carefully. It's not just about safety and convenience, it's about the quality of the years you have left. I hope sharing my regrets helps others make a decision they won't have to look back on with sadness.